Hello, my name's Jo, and I am currently just about to get off Anthem of the Seas. I've been on Anthem of the Seas, Royal Caribbean's Anthem of the Seas, for a couple of days, just for a mini cruise from Southampton to Le Havre in France. And I did a cruise very recently on Virgin and did a little sort of video review as I was getting off, and had some feedback that was really helpful, so I thought I'd do the same thing for this cruise. Different situation for this one. When I went on Virgin, I was cruising on my own and it was my very first cruise. This is my second cruise now, and I was with my partner for this one. It was a little bit of a sort of mini birthday celebration. It was my birthday earlier this week, so we did this cruise. It wasn't the cheapest, especially for a 2-nighter, so it probably would be about the same price to do something like 7 nights. So it is quite an expensive way to cruise, but we just wanted a little bit of a fun experience. We didn't actually go to Paris, so Le Havre is the port for Paris, but it's about 3 hours journey each way. And we were only there for the day, so we decided not to go into Paris, but we did go and visit Le Havre, which was actually a really nice little area to just explore. It was a nice day, so we went to have a little explore, but it also meant we got more time on the ship, so I can tell you a little bit more about Anthem of the Seas and what we thought about it. So firstly, the cabin is brilliant. I'm sat out on the balcony at the moment. We initially were looking for an inside cabin, but there weren't any available. We did manage to get a balcony cabin, and then we also did the bid up. So we paid £25 each, which was what we bid to get a room that has a larger balcony. So it's a fairly decent sized balcony. We're sort of on the corner, one of the corners that juts out. But the cabin itself is huge. It's a really, really nice size. There's, a decent king size bed and sofa bed and lots of storage. So I can really see it's if you was doing a longer cruise, you could quite easily live in this cabin and not feel cramped at all, even with 2 people. So yeah, cabin, brilliant, really, really nice. The bed was comfy-ish, not quite as comfy as the Virgin's beds, I'm going to be honest, but yeah, it was really nice. So the cabin was good. We really like the ship as well. It's a fairly, I think it's been refurbished in the last couple of years, so it's a fairly modern ship. It's really easy to navigate, which I found helpful. It didn't take long for us to move around the ship. We could often get back to our cabin quite quickly and then go out somewhere else. So I found it really quite easy to navigate. And we were quite fortunate in that our cabin is near to the lifts or elevators, so that was quite helpful. But in general, I just found it quite easy to navigate the ship. And yeah, it's a nice ship. You get on board and you're like, oh wow, this is a really nice environment to be in. There's lots of different types of areas which I really like. So there's quieter areas, busier areas, social areas. We definitely prefer the quieter areas, but it's nice that we can go to those. And speaking of that, one of our favourite parts of the ship was the adults only Solarium, which was a sort of indoor space with glass covering, really nice and warm, and it had, was it 4? Yeah, 4 sort of like jacuzzi, hot tub type areas, and a little sort of pool and lots of lounges. It did have a bar there, just a really nice space, and it was really great that you kind of went from a really busy, loud pool deck with families and people drinking and all of that noise and hustle and bustle, which some people love, and then you go through those doors into the adults only quieter area, and we really liked that. So that was where we were as we set sail, actually, which was nice. And there's little areas so that you can go outside to have a look, and you can also open the windows there. So the Solarium we really, really liked. Also the North Star, so the bit on the top of the ship, it's not on all Royal Caribbean ships, but it is on quite a few of them, and it's a sort of panoramic viewing area that lifts you up, I think she said 90 metres, 300 feet, something like that, above the ship. So we went on that whilst we were in port yesterday, and that was a really nice little 15-minute trip to just go to the top of the ship and have a look around wherever you are. It also does that whilst you're at sea on longer cruises, but it didn't on our cruise. And what's really interesting when you do that as well is looking down on the ship from above, which is, and obviously looking out to port or looking out to sea or whatever. So that's a really cool feature. There is also skydiving and surfing and rock climbing. We didn't do any of those this time, but interesting things that you can do on board. One thing that we did really like, was the bumper cars. We did that on the first afternoon, and that was a lot of fun in the area that they call the Seaplex, which is a sort of sports centre, but they also have bumper cars on there for a couple of hours each day. So we did that as one of our first things, which was really, really fun. Really enjoyed that. The other things that are good about this cruise, the app's been pretty good. So there's all sorts of problems with the Virgin app. I didn't have that with Royal Caribbean. It always worked. I was able to see the schedule. I was able to book things reliably. Things did sell out, but when they were available, then I was able to book that. So I thought that was really good. And what else did I like? Oh, I got my hair cut whilst I was on this ship, which just seems like such a weird thing to be doing. It was whilst we were in port, but you could do it whilst we were at sea as well. I won $50 credit that I could use in the spa. We actually booked a couples massage, but that was the manager's special, so it was already at a discount, so I couldn't use my credit towards that. But the massage was lovely, actually. We both really enjoyed that. And so then I used my credit towards getting my hair cut, which was quite a cool thing to be doing on the ship. So that's all the good stuff. The not so amazing stuff, we spent quite a lot of time queuing. I think it's around a similar capacity to my previous cruise, but I think there's fewer places to go. So for example, there's less places to eat, there's just a lot fewer places. So that means that therefore there's queues. So yeah, and just in general, there was a lot of places where we were waiting for quite a long time. The shops opened yesterday, but only for an hour. Now that could be because of the timings of when we were at sea, but I queued for a good sort of 15 minutes just to buy a t-shirt. So that wasn't so great. One thing I will say, the merchandise is not amazing quality, but is quite fun, and I did pick up a t-shirt and a little Lego model and things like that, and they're pretty reasonable prices as well. Virgin merchandise was very expensive, so that was, but just queuing all the time, lots and lots of queuing. And also what we found was that a lot of things needed maintaining. So the soda machines were often out of order, they weren't fizzy, or they didn't have certain drinks, and there aren't that many on the ship. So I paid for the soda package so that I could have unlimited soda refills, but actually a lot of the time I wasn't able to get a drink because I either couldn't find a station or it wasn't working. So that wasn't so great. There was a lot of things that were sort of broken or not quite working as they should, a lot of things that weren't available. It just in general, quite a lot of maintenance issues. The biggest disappointment for me was the dining. I'm going to be honest, and I'm not a huge foodie fan. My partner is, so he was mostly looking forward to the food, and I think he was pretty happy. We mostly went to Windjammer, which is the sort of buffet area, and there was a good variety of foods. But as I mentioned in my previous video, I have celiac disease, so I have to follow a gluten-free diet, and this hasn't been a great experience. They have had food that's gluten-free, but finding out which food is gluten-free has been really difficult. The food is not labelled, and a lot of the staff do not know. So I've had to find the one chef who does know, and what I've had to do is ask to find a member of staff, and then they've had to walkie-talkie or call somebody else who's then had to come over. So again, a lot of waiting just to find out what food I could eat. I don't know why they don't have labels for the key allergens. They did have a gluten-free area, but that was empty. The times I went, one time I went and there was a very small amount of food there. Another time it was completely clear, absolutely nothing there. And it wasn't a particularly unusual time. So yeah, I didn't find it a great experience. And also, I mean, there was gluten-free pizza at the pizza place, so that was great. But there was also a lot of areas where there just wasn't gluten-free options. So in the little cafe, for example, there's lots of different cakes. They don't do anything that's gluten-free. And I was a little bit disappointed because from other cruises, I've heard that, they do cater well for allergies. Not so much in my experience for this particular cruise. And the other thing with the dining as well is I found the times quite restrictive. Things were only open for quite short space of time, and I'm used to them being open pretty much whenever, other than the sort of set sitting down to dine. So if you want to grab some food, I found it a little bit more tricky. We had to plan our day around the eating times a lot more than I had to when I was on the Virgin cruise, and I could just sort of eat whenever I wanted to. So I did find that a little bit more restrictive. And also on the scheduling front, there hasn't really been much entertainment that we've been able to experience. There's been some trivia, but nothing that floated our boat. And the main show, We Will Rock You, they had to cancel. The replacement that they put on was a Beatles tribute band, so they just moved them from one venue to the Royal Theatre. So we've not actually even been into the Royal Theatre. We were interested in the Beatles tribute band. That's a bit of an issue. There's a playing going past at the moment. Hopefully you can still hear me. But yeah, so the entertainment, although there seemed to be a lot on the schedule, there wasn't anything that we were really interested in, and yeah, it was a little bit disappointing that we didn't get to see the show. Although I think that's my final thing really. So amazing ship, amazing cabin, we had a lovely experience. The dining experience hasn't been brilliant. We did go to the sit down dining, they call it My Time dining, which is no extra cost, but it does say to allow an hour and a half to 2 hours, so we were expecting that, but what we were expecting is so much sitting around waiting for service. It took over, I think it was almost 40 minutes before they took our order. After we'd sat down, we'd already had to queue outside even though we'd got a reservation. And yeah, just again, a lot of waiting around. It just took a long time. So I do feel like that's a bit of a shame because you can't do as much in your schedule when it takes so long to do everything. We just nipped downstairs last night before we went to bed, to go to the shop and go and get a pizza. And it took us over an hour to just nip to the shop and get a pizza. Everything seems to take a long time. The other thing on that front as well is I am really tired, so much so that we might even book into a day room today to sleep on the way back, because you have to be off the ship really early, and yet the shops were open from 11 p.m. till midnight, and then you get an announcement at tannoy at 6 a.m. waking you up. So we did not get much sleep last night and we're really tired. So yeah, I think it's quite normal. I think it's Virgin that's unusual in this respect, but I didn't need to wake up until after 9 o'clock on my last day, whereas yeah, it's much earlier on Royal Caribbean. I think that is standard, but it's not my preference. I'm not an early morning person, and when you've got so much to do on the cruise, you don't want to be going to bed so early. So yeah, I imagine some people will have struggled this morning. If you've got a long journey after, you really want to get a decent night's sleep. So yeah, I've loved my cruise. It's been fabulous. Some great things about the ship. Would I cruise again with Royal Caribbean? Yes, I would. But I think it would need to be either a specific ship that I wanted to go on or a specific itinerary that I wanted to do. My partner said, when I asked him for feedback, he said, I'm just not sure I love the Royal Caribbean way of doing things. And I kind of get what he means, but it's difficult to define. There's nothing specific that I would say, I don't like this, I don't like that. But in general, there was nothing that was like, oh, this is amazing, this is incredible, I feel really looked after. So I don't know, I definitely want to experience some different cruise providers. There's definitely some advantages in my experience of Virgin over Royal Caribbean, which to be honest I'm a little bit surprised at, especially the things like the dining. I thought that it would be better than it was. So I would cruise again with Royal Caribbean, but probably not anytime soon. I'd like to try some different providers. And the other thing that I wanted to address is like, who is Royal Caribbean for? If you're watching this video and you're wondering, is it for me? Great for families. I think it's really good for families. The pool deck is brilliant. I should have said that actually. So there's lots of whirlpools, there's a little rapids thing, there's actual swimming pools. So if you're a family, there's also a kids club and lots of things like that. I think it would be great. If you're here for a sort of party, there are lots of bars. So there were a lot of kind of, I think possibly because it was a shorter cruise, but there were a lot of people who were here to sort of party and drink and celebrate. So yeah, it worked for that, I think, because there was lots of bars. We're not drinkers, so can't really comment on that. But I would say, yeah, mostly families. I don't think the sort of traditional cruisers who want the sort of shows and entertainment would particularly enjoy this cruise. People were dressing more formally, I noticed, on Royal Caribbean, so some people were dressing up in the evenings, which was nice to see, although I have to confess I felt a little bit out of place then. When I went to dinner, you know, I had worn a dress actually, but I was really glad that I had. It wasn't a cocktail dress or anything like that, it was very casual, but I kind of felt like I was glad I hadn't gone down in my hoodie and leggings. So it was a little bit more formal, but the entertainment didn't really match that. So probably families and younger, I'd say probably middle-aged couples, although we're a middle-aged couple. So yeah, I don't know, it's probably for families and people who want a fairly relaxed cruise where they can do casual or they can do formal, but without so much focus on the entertainment, because yeah, I really don't think there was that many shows or interesting things. There was no sort of like circus performance, there's no ice rink, you know, and that sounds so precious, you know, there's no ice rink, but you know, there isn't anything that's particularly tailored towards shows, just the Royal Theatre. So yeah, I've whittled on for over 15 minutes, so I'll leave it there. But yeah, great cruise, really enjoyed it. Some pros and cons. I hope that this review has been helpful. Like I said, my name's Jo. If you've got any questions, I also sort of looked at it through the lens of how I might feel for it to be a solo traveller, and I chatted to one person who was travelling on her own, but obviously I haven't travelled on my own, so it was a little bit of a different experience. But if you've got any questions about that, let me know. I would cruise on my own on Royal Caribbean. They also have solo meetups, which is a good thing. But obviously I'm not on my own for this cruise, so I didn't check that out. Anyway, that's my review. If you've got any questions, let me know and I'll do my best to answer them. So I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.